Call an ambulance, quick! How can you be so slow?
Suddenly, Helen, who lives next door, burst into my apartment. The whole thing started when Tom collapsed in the bathroom. Lately, Tom has been glued to his smartphone, never leaving it aside. Even when he's in the bathroom, apparently talking to someone. It's strange how Helen, my neighbor, knew instantly about Tom's collapse. Frankly, I don't see why she should call me slow. I already know why Helen is connected to Tom and how she found out so quickly about his fall. They both seem to think they haven't been caught, but there have been many suspicious moments. They're unaware that I've noticed their cluelessness, which I find quite ironic. I've been turning a blind eye until now, but I've decided it's time to confront them. They've taken advantage of my silence, but not anymore. Of course, I'll confront Tom, but Helen will also get a taste of the suffering, just like me. They shouldn't think they can get away with this. Now's the time to settle the betrayal of the past 13 years. I'm Anna Smith, a 40-year-old housewife. I met my husband Tom through a mutual acquaintance. At my age, I longed to marry and build a warm family. A friend suggested we meet just to see if we clicked. I was all work and no play, with no real romantic encounters. Watching everyone around me getting married, I wondered what life with someone I loved would be like. Meeting through an introduction was risk-free, so I agreed with little expectation, but I was pleasantly surprised by the comfortable atmosphere. We shared many hobbies and topics, and our conversation flowed naturally. It felt like we'd known each other for ages. And I felt I want to see him again. I had dated before, but never had I been able to speak so freely with anyone. Tom was considerate and always put me first. It didn't take long for me to fall for his constant kindness.
Oh, Anna. I thought this would suit you. What's this? It's not my birthday or our anniversary, but can I open it? Please do.
Inside the box Tom handed me was a beautiful lemon yellow dress. It's lovely. I've never worn anything like this. I wonder if it'll suit me.
Of course, it will suit you, Anna. I'd love to see you try it on here. Right here? I'm a bit nervous.
I immediately slipped into the yellow dress. Yeah, it fits perfectly. Just as I thought, it looks great on you. I'm so happy. Thank you. Tom nodded in satisfaction as he looked at me. He was kind to me, but sometimes I caught glimpses of his stern side. Especially during his work-related phone calls. Even during our dates, he would sometimes get calls. Watching him give instructions over the phone was quite captivating. Tom, as a department head at his workplace, seemed to be very busy all the time, regardless of whether it was his day off or not.
It must be tough getting work calls even on your days off. Well, it's not too bad. But yeah, having incompetent subordinates can be quite a challenge. Oh, speaking of which, we should head out. It's almost time for our reservation at the restaurant. We hurried to the restaurant, hand in hand, laughing and chatting along the way. I've always wanted to marry a wonderful woman like you, Anna. Will you marry me? If you're okay with me, then absolutely. I look forward to our life together. I was thrilled to be marrying Tom. However, I was soon to realize that this happiness would be short-lived. I intended to continue working as a nurse even after getting married. But then things started to look doubtful. About the household chores. I plan to continue working as before, even after marriage. Is it okay if I ask you to help out when I'm on night shifts? Tom's expression clouded over. You mean to keep working even after we're married? Yes, is that a problem?
Well, it's not exactly a problem, but the idea of a married woman continuing to work, it's a bit unusual, isn't it? Nowadays, it's not uncommon for both spouses to work. In fact, among my friends, dual-income households are more common than ones with a stay-at-home spouse. Despite my explanation, Tom still wanted me to quit working after marriage, so I asked him why. I thought there must be a reason behind his thinking. It's important for a married couple to compromise, so I wanted to understand his perspective. I used to come back to a dark, empty apartment and turn on the lights by myself.
It was a stark reminder that I was all alone. Tom, you've been living alone since college, haven't you?
Exactly.
The moment I lit up that lonely room, I'd be hit with the realization that I was all by myself.
I hated that feeling. Tom's expression darkened for a moment.
I see. I've lived with my family for a long time, but I can imagine how living alone might make you feel that way. That's why, Anna, I want you to quit your full-time job. Don't worry, I'll make enough for both of us. I might even be promoted to manager soon.
Really? A promotion at this time? That's amazing. He responded with a shy smile, scratching the tip of his nose. He had a habit. When he felt embarrassed, he scratched the tip of his nose and his breathing quickened. He kept glancing at me, as if asking for more praise. It must have been a happy moment for him. Tom always prioritized his career, so being recognized at work must have been an honor for him. Well, at my level, it's not such a big deal. But among my peers, only a handful have made it to department head, so I guess my career progression has been pretty fast, huh? Tom said proudly. I was feeling uncertain beside him. Sensing my hesitation, Tom leaned in close and said,
You're not gonna cling to your job even though your husband is humbly asking you to quit, right?
I was speechless at this side of Tom I had never seen before. It was unbelievable, and instinctively, I felt I shouldn't meet his eyes any longer. After such a statement, I felt compelled to quit. I wanted to continue working a bit longer, but I decided to resign, considering my beloved husband's request. Becoming a full-time housewife after marriage was harder than I expected. I thought being a housewife meant doing chores at home, but it was way too busy. Tom, taking advantage of my full-time housewife status, stopped doing any household chores.
After all, the home is kinda like a woman's workplace, right? It's not right to just slack off on your job and take time for yourself, is it?
When Tom spoke to me so assertively, I couldn't talk back. I prepared breakfast according to Tom's waking time, helped him get ready for work, and by the time he returned at night, I had finished preparing dinner, the bath, and all the cleaning.
Tom! Dinner's ready.
I'll be right there. He moved leisurely to the table, sat down, and let out a big sigh.
You know I was out for a business dinner last night and had some drinks, right?
Yes.
I thought it might have been a business dinner since you came back late. What about it? For a morning after drinking, it should have been clam chowder, right? I'm sorry. I wasn't thoughtful enough.
Then Tom tapped the table with his finger and glared at me in silence. He was particular about things, and if something didn't match his expectations, he would make a strong point of it.
Hey, was this vase always here?
He pointed at a normal vase next to the TV stand. I had bought it because Tom said having flowers at home made it look lively. The vase's placement wasn't fixed, but maybe something was off.
The vase? I moved it a bit because it was blocking the TV.
Tom clicked his tongue and glared at me.
From my seat, this angle makes the vase block the view of the painting. A masterpiece is obscured by flowers. What were you thinking? Putting your TV viewing above everything else, that's pretty selfish. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
Try to understand how it feels to be with such a selfish woman, he said, relentlessly blaming me. As he went on and on about how inadequate I was, I started to feel utterly worthless.
Anna, you've always lived with your family and only worked as a nurse. You don't understand how tough the real world is. You're so narrow-minded, stuck in your medical world.
Hearing Tom say that made me wonder if my limited perspective was making him uncomfortable.
Being a doctor or a nurse, in the end, you're just a frog in a well, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe.
I've been working at the same company for 30 years since graduating from college, so I'm pretty good at sensing these things. From now on, I'll teach you, so you better shape up.
Honestly, I would have been better off continuing to work as a nurse. Tom's constant nagging and sarcasm can go on for 2 or 3 hours. Showing even a hint of displeasure would restart the whole lecture, so I couldn't even allow myself to look upset. I focused solely on giving responses that would satisfy Tom and nodding as if I was listening. While I could ignore Tom's remarks by pretending to listen, something else had been troubling me for a while. The presence of our neighbor, Helen Abbey. She seems to be a successful influencer, and I often hear her streaming at night. Despite living in a well-insulated apartment, the sound leaks through, suggesting she must be quite loud. Right after moving here 13 years ago, I was troubled by her loudness and even complained a couple of times. Remembering those times still irritates me. Since then, she seems to have labeled me as an enemy. Every time we pass each other, she clicks her tongue. It's become routine, but the accumulation of these small annoyances is unsettling. Do you know anything about the person next door? Tom looked at me quizzically.
Something wrong with the neighbor? Please, spare me any neighbor trouble. No, it's just that, their noise. I was wondering if there's anything we can do about it.
I don't really think it's a problem. Just don't go confronting the neighbor directly, okay? Tom said, ending the conversation by taking a gulp of his beer. Since then, I haven't brought it up. Tom's often busy with work and returns home late at night. I try to wait up for him, but sometimes I fall asleep. One night, I heard Tom's voice and thought he had returned, but I was too sleepy to get up. I forced myself to wake up, fearing Tom's anger, but he wasn't there.
Didn't Tom come back?
I could hear his voice, but where was it coming from? Listening closely, I realized it was coming from next door. Why would Tom's voice be coming from Helen's apartment at this hour? They seemed to be having a conversation. Checking the time, it was past 1 a.m. A bad feeling crept over me, so I decided to use some savings from my working days to hire a detective. I never imagined I'd need to hire a detective. The investigation revealed something unexpected. But it wasn't yet time to confront Tom about it. I had a bad feeling as the year drew to a close. With the long holiday coming up after finishing work for the year, I had no idea what to expect. The start of each day, different from my usual routine, was weighing on me. That particular year-end, Tom came home a bit early, seeming in a good mood from the year-end wrap-up at work. He appeared to have had some drinks, with a relaxed expression on his face. Recently, he had been irritable and harsh towards me, so seeing him like this was a bit of a relief.
Welcome home. You're back early today, Tom. Yeah, just had some drinks with colleagues after wrapping up work for the year. Oh, I see. You must be tired.
Then, looking at the fridge, Tom asked for more drinks.
Hey, I'm not done drinking. Get me something, will you?
It was good that he was in a good mood, but his face was already flushed, clearly showing he had drunk quite a bit.
Your face is all red. Don't you think you've had enough?
Enough? Are you saying I can't handle my liquor? Drinking is part of a salaryman's life, I can't be weak. He said, downing the beer he was holding in one gulp. Tom is not particularly fond of beer. He used to brag about how well he could handle his alcohol, but I've had to pick him up from bars more times than I can count. A real salaryman drinks his fill, he would boast, but he always ended up getting carried away, leaving me to deal with the aftermath. I sweated quite a bit drinking tonight. I'll take a quick shower before bed, he said, taking his smartphone with him to the bathroom. He never used to bring his phone to the bathroom, but lately, he's inseparable from it. Even taking it with him to the toilet. Maybe he has something he doesn't want me to see. Curious about him taking his phone to the bathroom, I decided to eavesdrop. I could hear him talking on the phone, but his murmured conversation was indistinct. What could be so important that he needed to talk in the bathroom? Suddenly, a loud noise came from the bathroom. I rushed in, startled, and found Tom curled up in the bathtub, looking pained. Just as he regained consciousness and tried to get out of the tub, he collapsed, unconscious. I quickly checked him over. And then there was a loud banging on the door. Someone was hitting it so hard I thought it might break. I'm living in a rental, and the last thing I need is for someone to break my door. Especially at a time like this, who could it be?
Yes, I'm a bit busy right now.
I opened the door to find Helen standing there.
Move. You're in the way.
I was baffled by her sudden appearance. She pushed past me and stomped into the bathroom, shoes and all.
Wait, with your shoes on? Tom! What happened? Tom!
I was amazed, in a different sense, that Helen could just barge into someone's house with her shoes on at a time like this. I could never do that, storm into my lover's house with my shoes on. Ignoring my stunned reaction, Helen took charge of the situation. She acted as if she was the wife, which was bizarre.
Call an ambulance, quick! How can you be so slow?
I couldn't let Helen continue to act as she pleased. There was only one thing to do, confront her with reality. I just stood there, looking down at the two of them.
Call an ambulance? And who do you think you are to order me around? What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. Do you think you have the right to give orders to me, his wife?
Helen looked as if she'd been hit by a ton of bricks. Was it so surprising that I would talk back?
If you're so worried, why don't you call the ambulance yourself? No. I mean, I can't, that's why I'm asking you. Use your brain a bit.
She snapped back, clearly agitated. It made sense, she was the mistress and wouldn't want to be exposed in such an embarrassing situation. And she was fearing the call might reveal her affair. As I watched Tom lying there, Helen was too flustered to make the call herself. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity.
Can't even make a phone call? That says a lot about you.
My comment triggered Helen, and she yelled back.
What do you mean that says a lot? Are you mocking our pure love?
The fact that she, merely a mistress, believed their affair was pure love was terrifying in itself. I was almost envious of their obliviousness, but this was no time for such thoughts.
Calling someone else's husband your lover and talking about pure love? That's laughable. If you really care about Tom, making a phone call should be no big deal. You should be able to do it, right?
I taunted her, waving my smartphone in front of her. If she was really in a position to contact him without any issue, she should be able to do it. Helen, clearly not amused by being challenged, glared at me furiously. Tom, possibly awakened by our voices, regained consciousness. Even after regaining consciousness from being unconscious, he still appeared to be in considerable pain. He was struggling to muster his voice with great difficulty.
My head is splitting. Call an ambulance.
He looked truly distressed. It was not his usual composed self. Looking it, I said.
It must be tough. We really should call an ambulance for you. What are you waiting for? Hurry up!
Yes, we should act quickly. Ignoring Tom's words, I decided to take a different course of action. Glancing at Tom writhing in pain, I silently left the house. I also took the waterproof-packed smartphone from the bathroom, leaving Tom with no way to contact anyone from his phone. Relieved that both Tom and Helen were awake, they seemed lost in their own world, confirming their love for each other. They were so engrossed that they didn't even notice I had taken the smartphone. I couldn't deal with this adulterous couple any longer. I quickly decided to leave the house. I immediately contacted John, Helen's boyfriend, as soon as I left the house. John was in a serious relationship with Helen, presumably leading to marriage, and he spent about half the week staying over at her place. It was almost like they were living together, so I had seen him a few times in the hallway and at the trash disposal area. He's a doctor at a nearby hospital, and I remembered he had given me his business card before.
Good evening. I'm sorry to call you so late. It seems Helen is at my place for some reason. Could you come and pick her up? Anna? Long time no see. Helen is at your place? What do you mean by that?
John's voice sounded confused over the phone. Understandably, anyone would be surprised to receive a sudden call at night from their girlfriend's neighbor.
I'll explain everything later. Are you at work right now? No, I just finished work and was killing time at a nearby diner. Helen told me she had a stream tonight and asked me to come back late.
So Helen had arranged for John not to come to her apartment. While he was away, she had been freely talking to Tom on the phone.
Can you come over soon? I'll head there right now. Let's meet at the apartment entrance. Thank you. I'll join you there.
3 minutes after the call, John arrived at the apartment's entrance, and we headed to my place together. On the way, I briefly explained the situation.
To put it bluntly, it seems my husband, Tom, and Helen have been having an affair for many years. What do you mean? I only found out after having an investigation done, but they've been involved since they met at a service industry place 13 years ago.
John held his head in disbelief.
13 years? Since that long ago?
Yes.
Helen moved into the apartment next to ours by chance 2 years ago. No way. So what am I to her? I thought we were going to get married.
Understandably, John was struggling to accept that his committed partner was cheating on him. Of course, it's shocking to find out that the person you were considering marrying was actually having an affair with a married neighbor.
It's about money, it seems. That's what the investigation report stated. I can't believe this! Helen burst into our apartment when Tom collapsed in the bath. It seems they were talking on the phone even in the bathroom.
John appeared deep in thought, then turned to me.
That explains why she never lets go of her phone. But you said Tom collapsed? Is he okay? He's fine, more or less. It's just a case of drinking too much.
After explaining briefly, I took John to my apartment. As we entered quietly, Tom and Helen were still caught up in their charade.
I'll protect Tom against the whole world. I'm so lucky to have someone as beautiful as you who loves me so much. This must be a trial given by God to reach true love.
It only took about 10 minutes for me to leave the room, contact John, and return. Yet, in that brief time, it seemed a grand drama had unfolded. They were spouting such cheesy lines that I was amazed at how they could say such things with a straight face. Glancing at John beside me, I could see his expression was indescribable. Seemingly shaking with disbelief at the absurdity. It wasn't until John accidentally dropped his bag that the two of them finally noticed our presence.
What the heck is this? John? Why are you here?
Both of them were inexplicably naked, which was comical in itself.
Why am I here? That's my line. You said there was a stream tonight and asked me to come back later. Was it for this?
John, usually mild-mannered, raised his voice, which seemed to surprise Helen.
Well, that's because, fans can be troublesome. If they found out I had a boyfriend.
Helen's gaze was darting around, clearly evasive. I knew John as a calm person from the brief chats we had in the apartment building. He's the type who can control his emotions, as evidenced by his composed listening when I explained everything earlier. His anger now indicated the gravity of what Helen had done.
Stop playing games. Sneaking around with the guy next door for 13 years?
Helen, suddenly cornered, was at a loss for words.
Well, I thought maybe John for marriage. Is that not okay?
Her attempt at a coy look seemed to backfire with John.
I thought we were heading towards marriage, living together and all, but now I can't trust you.
Then, seeing John's angry face, Helen seemed to snap back to reality and shifted gears impressively.
No, it's not like that. I was teaching him about streaming, like personal training for influencers in this era.
It was obvious she thought we knew nothing about influencers or video streaming. It was blatantly obvious that she was just saying anything to throw us off track. Despite her last-ditch efforts and shallow attempts to wriggle out of the situation, John did not forgive her.
Personal training, you say? Did you already forget what you just said?
I discreetly played the recording of their cheesy lines at full volume.
Hey! You recorded us without knowing? That's an invasion of privacy. Delete it now. Privacy? You have no right to talk about privacy. I'm filing for divorce.
Tom, apparently not expecting me to initiate a divorce, was flustered.
Divorce? How are you gonna live without me? You've been living off me, and now you're talking about divorce? Have you lost your mind?
He seemed to think I would cry and cling to him. Assuming he was in a superior position and unable to believe the current situation. His overconfidence was puzzling, but it didn't matter to me anymore.
Say whatever you like. You can only act tough for so long.
Eventually, Tom and I got divorced. After the incident, I immediately consulted a lawyer specialized in divorce and infidelity issues. The evidence video I provided helped me claim a higher than average alimony. Meanwhile, Helen, who lived next door, also ended her engagement with John and now seems to be living a reclusive life. This was also related to Helen's streaming content going viral, apparently. It seems that right after the affair scandal with Tom, Helen's suggestive posts were analyzed by her fans. Their sharp eyes caught the subtle details in the background of her posts, like a pole or a reflection of someone in a pin badge. These hints led to the revelation of her affair with Tom. The scandal also impacted Tom's career. The uproar reached his company with numerous calls. Tom's company took the situation seriously, and as a result, Tom was fired. The company probably wanted to rid themselves of the trouble. It's no surprise, considering the backlash against an employee of a major corporation having an affair with a famous influencer, despite being married. The company's stocks even dropped after the affair became public, forcing them to take action. I heard that Tom is now struggling to step outside due to the shame and backlash. Helen, often referred to as the has-been influencer, can't carelessly go outside without being pointed at or ending up on discussion boards. I've encountered Helen once since the scandal. She confronted me near my workplace's convenience store as if she had been lying in wait.
How can you live comfortably with a big payout while I'm suffering? Isn't that unfair?
It was typical of her to make such baseless accusations.
It's not unfair at all. Everything is the result of your own actions. I have nothing to say to you.
Acting all high and mighty, what do you think you are? Because of you, my engagement is ruined, she said, approaching me.
I was about to marry a doctor, and you ruined it. Stop it already. I can't understand the nerve of someone who continues an affair just because they haven't been caught yet, especially while being engaged to someone else. And you might want to be a bit more careful about how you conduct yourself. What do you know about me? You're quite the talk of the town on the internet now. If someone saw this, you might end up on the net again.
She quickly covered her face with her hood and left in a hurry. Since the divorce, I've been enjoying my single life. Living at my own pace, which feels great. I've returned to my nursing job, busy and fulfilling. It's surprising how the body remembers, and I manage quite well. There were moments of doubt, but now, living a fulfilling life without thinking of Tom or Helen feels like the best revenge.